Hey everybody, it's Andy, and welcome again to my office in Modesto, California. For those of you new to the channel, I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in California as well as New York. And that said, in this video, I'm going to actually try something slightly different. So I'm actually going to go over 10 tips or 10 skills that you need in order to be successful at work, let's say. Or you could argue that basically these skills are kind of generic to success. But the context, the reason why I kind of thought of these or came up with this list originally, basically is something like this. And I guess you can probably tell from my channel that I do a lot of family law also. So in family law, you oftentimes will have a situation where because of a divorce, because of a separation or something, one spouse who historically has not worked, like let's say a stay-at-home mom, for instance, basically now has to go back to work because, the husband and the wife have split up, or the wife and the wife have split up, or something. So a divorce, a lot of times, will result in one spouse having to go back to work, probably, after quite a while of not working, let's say. So the topic oftentimes will come up in that situation. How does this person who hasn't worked in, say, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, how do they go back to work after having not done so for so long? Or kind of phrased it another way, a slight variant rather to that situation would be, somebody who hasn't worked in quite a while now has to go back to work, and let's say that they have to go back to school first. So for instance, pretend somebody got married really, really young, they dropped out of high school, never finished or something. Fast forward 20 years, and they've gotten divorced. Now at age 40 or so or whatever, they have to go back to work, but they find that, hey, they're not qualified for anything, for instance. So that's actually just another complication that that person has to go through, getting a degree first, a GED or something, before actually going back to apply for to actually get a job. So in a situation like that, I've had that kind of happen several times, and kind of over the course of those situations, I've kind of come up with a list of things that you would basically need to do in order to get a job in the modern world. So again, this is just my list. It's just from what I've seen. I don't mean to say that this is something that you have to do, but these are things that I've kind of come across as somebody who has dealt with a lot of people who are trying to find a job for the first time in quite a while, and also having dealt with a lot of people who are, for example, small business owners and trying to hire people for the first time. Right? So again, I have all of them kind of taped to the tripod here actually. So I'm going to try to go over them. Maybe they'll apply in your situation, maybe not. But anyway, this is an experiment completely for me. So this is something where I had it and I go like, this actually might be more useful than just in a family law situation. All right, so anyway, that kind of preamble said, let's go ahead and get started. So the first item that I came up with on my list basically is that in order to be successful, to get a job, for example, you need to have a mailing address of some kind, a P.O. box, for instance. You need to have some way of actually receiving mail. A lot of stuff nowadays is done online, but there is still stuff that actually is sent, for lack of a better word, snail mail, UPS, FedEx, whatever. So you need to have a mailing address of some kind. Doesn't have to be your house. Most people probably still use their house, but it could be a P.O. box of some kind, just something where you can actually receive mail. So where an employer has to mail you a tax document, let's say, or a customer has to mail you a check or something, having a place to receive mail is going to be really, really helpful. Right? So that's point number one, having a way to receive physical mail, P.O. box, let's say. Number two, similar type of idea, you need to have a phone. This sounds really basic, but there are a lot of people out there, that I've encountered at least, who don't have a phone. They can't afford to have one, or they're not really disciplined enough to keep their phone kind of charged or paid up or whatever. But in order to be successful, my opinion, I think, is that you need to be able to have have a way to receive mail rather, but also to have a way to receive phone calls. So a lot of times, customers will call you, potential employers will call you, just for lack of, for better or worse rather. A lot of stuff, like I said, is done online, but there's still a lot of stuff that's done by phone, by mail, regular mail. So you need to have a phone on you. Now, I guess this sounds sort of weird to say, but it is something where I would have never thought that, maintaining a phone would be that kind of difficult. Like I figured everybody would just do it. There are a lot of people who don't. I've run into several people who don't, and it's one thing I think at least that in order to be successful, in order to kind of get professional opportunities, and so forth, you need to have a phone. A phone that's paid up. It could be a cell phone, home phone, whatever. But you need to be able to be reachable by phone, I think. All right. So that's number two. Number three. Number 3 on my list is going to be you need to have reliable transportation of some kind. So this could be bicycle, car, bus pass. Reliable transportation that's also kind of inexpensive, I think. Like if you're taking Uber, for example, or Lyft or whatever all the time, obviously that gets very, very expensive. You can walk, for example, that's always an option. But you need to have reliable transportation of some kind because a lot of times, for better or worse in life, a lot of kind of being successful, like getting a job, for example, getting a raise, a promotion, etc., a lot of it actually depends on just showing up. Now, having said that, you can't just show up and expect to get a promotion, but a lot of times, I guess from a management perspective, I've been in a management role, before. A lot of effort or kind of anxiety, I suppose, a lot of energy, I guess, is expended in trying to make sure that everybody who's supposed to work that day actually is there, and that nobody's car broke down, or nobody got a flat tire, or nobody got their car repossessed or something. Just making sure that you can show up on time for whatever job that you're working actually is one big component of being successful. Like it's something where you don't show up, you might get laid off, you might get fired, whatever. Just showing up is going to be one way to actually stay successful, I think. Right? Which I believe that's number 3 on my list. Yeah, number 3. So number 4 on my list. Number 4 on my list actually follows number 1 and number 2. So number 1 was have a mailing address of some kind. Number 2 was have a phone of some kind. Number 4 is going to be have an email address of some kind. This actually should be really easy to do, like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, whatever. There's a bunch of free email kind of services that you can sign up for. And kind of what I said earlier, I guess, like basically a lot of stuff is done electronically nowadays. There's still some stuff that's done, via mail, regular mail, via phone, but a lot of stuff is done electronically. A lot of people will want to email you. I would also kind of include here that the email address rather, should be fairly professional sounding. Some variant, for example, of first name, last name, or first initial, last name, something like that. It shouldn't be something kind of, sexual, I guess, in nature, or something kind of embarrassing that you really couldn't use in a professional environment. So having an email address of some kind, hopefully a professional type of email address involving your first name, last name, hopefully that's going to be something where a customer could get in contact with you, a potential employer could get in contact with you, and so forth. Yeah, so hopefully that helps. So I guess like number 4 is have an email address of some kind. Included in that, I would say, is that you should, if you have an email address, you should check it also regularly. I mean, by virtue of what I do, I check my email all the time. That's just sort of the expectation, I think. But if you have an email address and you're applying for work, let's say you're trying to get a job, check your email more frequently than say like once a week. More frequently than once a month, let's say. Yeah, hopefully, if you have a modern smartphone, checking your email should actually not be that difficult. But having an email address is one thing. Checking it, on a regular basis is something else, unfortunately. So if you do both of those, have a professional email address and check it fairly regularly, hopefully, you're more likely to get a job from an employer, or you're more likely to get a job from a customer, something like that. All right. So that is number 4, I think, on my list. Number 5 actually is slightly related to that. So that's actually how to actually send email and, how to send and receive rather professional emails. So the thing is the tone of voice to take, the etiquette, that kind of thing. So included in that, for example, you could also say like, okay, well, how do I actually use the software? How do I actually use the app to actually send an email, like from my phone, from my tablet, whatever. But I guess having an email address, checking it, and being able to use it kind of in a professional sounding way, I think that's going to be one way in which you can be successful also. Just kind of know, for instance, that basically if you're emailing, in a professional type of setting, that's going to be different than if you're texting your best friend and, hurling insults back and forth and so forth. Like it's obviously different, right? So that is number 5. And number 6 actually is going to be very similar to that, except we're going to be talking about voicemail instead. So same idea, like, if you have an email address, you check it regularly. If you have a phone, most likely you're going to have a voicemail, box also. So number 1, you got to have your voicemail box set up properly. So I encounter this actually quite a lot, where I call somebody and their voicemail box is full, let's say, and or their voicemail box is not set up yet at all, and I can't leave them a voicemail, let's say. So, I mean, that's one thing that kind of, I think this is the third time I've said this now, but basically if you are kind of working in the modern world, you're going to have, for instance, a lot of stuff that's done, via email, a lot of stuff that's done by phone, but you have a lot of stuff a lot of stuff that's done by email, a lot of stuff that's done by regular mail, but you have a lot of stuff that's done by phone, and people will still leave you voicemails, employers, your boss, customers, etc. Being able to check your email, being able to check your voicemail, being able to receive voicemail at all, responding to voicemail, that's one thing that I think kind of is expected in the modern business world. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's not kind of unusual or kind of, extreme or out there for you. Should be something that should be pretty common sense. All right, so number 6 on my list here to kind of summarize is how to make, receive, and respond to professional voicemail. All right, so let's move on. Number 7. So number 7 actually is computer-based. So the thing is, it's how to type accurately and quickly. So this actually should not be, well, actually, perhaps it's a little surprising to you. But the basic idea, the kind of rationale behind this, me including this on my list, is that, I mean, take a look at any type of modern kind of, environment. If you're working for a law firm or a trucking company, or you're working at a restaurant, chances are you're going to be typing at least a little bit. So the thing is, if you can't type at all, let's say, obviously you're going to be very limited in terms of the software and the computers that you can use. Software and computers obviously are part of every job now. Anything that can be automated, for example, or can be done by software, a lot of times will be done by software. So you can't really, I mean, there are always going to be exceptions, I think, but the thing is, I would say that the vast majority of jobs are going to involve computers and software and stuff. It's really not worth it, I think, to try to find a job that doesn't, involve computers or software. That's basically every job now. All right. So anyway, number 7 is how to type accurately and quickly. When I was a kid, I actually took typing classes, and they tried to make you type like this. I actually don't do that. So if you see me type, I actually do type this way. Most of the time, I can type like this too, but most of the time my preference is to do this. So to hunt and peck like this. However, over the years, I think I've gotten so good at typing like this that basically speed-wise, accuracy-wise, I'm fine. So when I say type accurately and quickly, you don't feel like you have to kind of force yourself to do it this way. Like, it's something, if this works for you, or if this works for you, or whatever, find some way that works for you so you can use a keyboard and type accurately and quickly. That's all. All right, so that is number 7, I think. So number 8 on my list is actually slightly related to this also, and it's how to actually use common software. So for instance, if you don't know how to use a web browser, I would say that you're going to be pretty limited in the amount of jobs that you can kind of, use. If you work in an office environment, in a business, let's say, I would say that you're most likely going to have to use Microsoft Word or Excel at some point. So word processing or a spreadsheet or something. So if you know how to use, a word processing software, great. If you know how to use a spreadsheet software, great. If you don't know how to use either one of those, and you don't know how to use a web browser, you've never opened one, let's say, I would say that you're probably going to be pretty limited in what you can kind of offer an employer or offer a customer. Yeah, so the thing is, basically how to use common software. This is actually industry specific also. So for example, lawyers actually have a lot of practice management software that keeps track of time, their calendar, how to do billing and all that stuff. So there's software that's specific to lawyers. Accountants have their own software, law enforcement has their own software, courts have their own software. So whatever industry you're trying to get a job in, let's say, or whatever industry you're working in, know how to use the software that's common to that industry, whatever it is. Most likely, most of it will be Windows-based, for better or worse. You might have some Mac-based software. You might have some, Android apps or iPhone apps or something. If basically any type of software is common, it's the standard, so to speak, in your industry, know how to use it. Because if you don't, then it's going to be something that I think an employer will kind of hold against you, I suppose. Like, basically, you're going to be not as competitive compared to everybody else. Everybody else who's searching for work, trying to get work, etc. Right? So that is number 8, I think. Yeah, so number 9. So number 9 on my list here basically is how to work with PDF files. This might, I'll admit up front, this might be specific to my industry, like, lawyers and stuff. But the basic idea, though, behind me including this on my list is that if you're working in an office environment of any kind, chances are you're going to be working with documents. People will send you stuff to sign. You have to basically provide documentation to other people about this contract or this invoice or whatever. Chances are you're going to be working with PDF documents. PDF documents are extremely common. There's software of all kinds that will basically, manipulate manipulate PDF files, rearrange them, etc. But know how to work with PDF files, I would say includes, for instance, how to sign a PDF file electronically via DocuSign or something like that. How to, for instance, scan something to PDF. How to rearrange a PDF document just in case you scan it incorrectly, let's say. And then also here, I would include how to upload PDF documents. So if you need to, for instance, send a PDF file to somebody, you could send that as an email attachment. Kind of look at my, number 5, I guess, on my list, how to send and receive professional email. But if it's something where you actually have to take a PDF file, go to some website, like a bank's website or a court's website, actually upload it that way versus just emailing it as an attachment. How to upload PDFs, I think, is actually really common also. It's a really common skill, at least that I need. So if you're trying to apply for a job with me, let's say, and you don't know how to work with PDF files, I gotta be honest, I'm probably not gonna hire you, just because it's such a common skill that I encounter so often. Included in that, I would say other PDF related skills, how to do bookmarks in PDFs, how to, rotate, crop, etc., etc. It's going to be something that, I guess, depending on the industry, it's going to be pretty common. I would say that PDF files are going to be so common kind of in modern industry, modern kind of office environments, that if you don't know how to work with a PDF file, you're probably going to be at a pretty big disadvantage. Again, that might just be me. All right. So the last thing, number 10 on my list here, hopefully this one is fairly simple to understand, and it's how to maintain and follow a calendar. How to maintain and follow a calendar. So this one, again, kind of, number 2 on my list here. So the idea that, basically, to kind of refresh you, number 2 was have a phone, like be reachable by phone somehow, cell phone, home phone, whatever. And I guess, looking back now, I can tell you that there are a lot of people who don't have a working phone most of the time. Prior to becoming a lawyer, I would say I probably would never have guessed how many people fall into that category. But the same idea sort of applies to this one too, about maintaining and following a calendar. A lot of times people actually, I don't mean to put it this way, but a lot of times people actually forget to show up, or they don't go to court when they're supposed to, they don't go to meetings, they're not prepared because they thought this thing that they had to do was actually tomorrow when it's actually today or something. So when you can't, I guess when you don't know when you're supposed to do things, obviously you're not going to be able to do them on time. Other people might be depending on you, etc. Having a calendar, it sounds really basic, but there are a lot of people who actually don't do that. I have another video on my channel actually about how to succeed in court. How to succeed specifically in criminal court. And a lot of times people basically just don't show up when they're supposed to, and they get bench warrants. I have a video on my channel about that too. So just basically, if you have a calendar, you're supposed to show up for court, for instance, on January 10th, 2020, let's say, do that. Show up, put it on your calendar, set a reminder, whatever, show up when you're supposed to. So that's the maintain and follow a calendar kind of tip, I guess. That's actually my last one, so that's that's number 10. I'm going to try to go over all of them real quickly now, also just to kind of recap for you. So number 1 is to have a mailing address of some kind, PO box, for example. So to have a mailing address, that's number 1. Number 2 is to have a phone of some kind, cell phone, home phone, whatever. Right? Number three is to have some sort of transportation, reliable transportation, hopefully inexpensive transportation. Saves you time and make sure that you and make sure that you show up when you're supposed to, and that you don't lose your job, let's say, or the customer doesn't terminate you and go with some other person, let's say. So number 4 is going to be have an email address that you both check regularly, and it's professional sounding, usually first name, last name, some combination of those two. Number 5 is actually how to use that email address how to send a professional email, how to respond to a professional email, the timing involved, like, do you respond the same day, the next day, do you respond within the same week, etc. Number 6 is how to make and receive professional phone calls, voicemails, how to respond to voicemail, and so on, like how to actually use your phone. Number 7 is how to type accurately and quickly. Again, only because so many jobs now basically involve using a computer of some kind or software of some kind. You got to be able to type accurately and quickly. It also helps, obviously, if you're trying to respond to email, if you can type accurately and quickly. If this is what works for you, great. You don't have to do it this way. So number 8, I think, is what I'm on now. So number 8 is how to use common software. I think that would include at least a web browser, Gmail, if that's how you use your email, how to use like word processing software, spreadsheet software, but it also includes how to use software that's specific to your industry, let's say. Yeah, so if there's for example, if there's some piece of software that's really specific to your industry that basically everybody in your field uses it, if you don't know how to use it, then I think it's going to be a real big disadvantage for you if you're trying to apply for work or compete for jobs, for example. So you need to be able to use common software that everybody uses generally or specifically for your industry, right? So number 9, I think on my list here, is how to use and work with PDF files. That could be scanning, bookmarking, rotating, deleting, anything, uploading. How to work with PDF files. This one might be me, but I think most offices nowadays, regardless of industry, will work with PDF files in some form. Yeah, so if you don't know how to do that, and it's a common skill or a common requirement, obviously you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage, right? And the last one is going to be how to maintain and follow a calendar. So obviously, if you don't know when you're supposed to do stuff, you can't actually do it on time. And if you're late, you miss deadlines and stuff, obviously you're not going to be successful. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Like, again, to kind of recap the genesis of this video, it basically is something where basically I encountered a bunch of people who, due to a divorce, now had to go back to work for the first time in a really long time. And over time, I sort of compiled a list of the skills, the basic skills that they would need in order to go back to work, irrespective of what type of education they had, what type of environment they were going back to work in. These, I think, are general skills that in the modern day, I guess, like if you're trying to get a decent paying job, you need to be able to do ideally all of these, but most of these, I would say, excuse me. So again, hopefully all that made sense. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. And go ahead and share, comment, like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.